Hello and welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsborough. I've got my father, Alan Huntsborough, in the studio, and we're going to start off with our foundational verse. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord, for he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the rivers. Psalm 24, 1 and 2. Alan, we start off that verse every single program because it puts us on the page of, hey, we have a creator. Especially we're heading out to BC, Alan. We're going to be talking about British Columbia, things that are happening out there. And when you go out there and you see the mountains and you see the lakes, didn't you just drive through there? You just drove through there.
Yeah, we did. We drove through. Well, we kind of went Fernie through the Crow's Nest Pass, and then to the U.S. border, and then we came out of Idaho, Coeur d'Alene, and into Cranbrook and that part. So we're in that part of British Columbia. But yeah, it's a beautiful province, always has been. On a sunny day in Vancouver, you can't beat it with the ocean and the snow cap mountain behind it. And yeah, it's amazing. So it's interesting that, the struggle of COVID-19 and the things that have happened to our friends and family in BC is the same thing that's happened to people right across the entire country. So it's we all have experienced the same thing, which is I think a unifying thing in the long run. But right now it's been a struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, let's get to our guests. We've got them waiting. We've got Terri Perepolkin. Terri, sorry if I messed that up. We got Jed Ferguson, and we got Philip Davidson. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Philip,
thanks for having us. We're
going to start with you because you're the president of BCPS Employees for Freedom Society. I'm going to have you start. What is that? This is the first time I'm hearing about this organization. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. So we are a not-for-profit society in the province of British Columbia. Our members are current and former BC public servants, primarily provincial public servants, but also public servants at the local government and federal government level. And we were founded in October 2021 in the wake of proof of COVID-19 vaccination mandates that the government imposed on public servants and really the population at large. But in our case, it was basically a no jab, no job policy that was implemented. If one didn't prove their COVID-19 vaccination status, then they would be placed on leave without pay and then terminated, which happened to many thousands of healthcare workers in British Columbia. So we're a society that stands for medical privacy and bodily autonomy. We disagreed with that policy, and our members have gone forward with legal action over the last number of years. And I think that's what we're here to talk about today, in part.
How many members do you have in your organization?
Good question.
Yeah, in our society, we're fairly small. We're about 300 members registered. We have many more supporters and people who follow our work and continue in the public service. But a number of people, to give you an idea of how draconian and I guess effective the mandates were in British Columbia when they threatened people with losing their jobs, about 99% of people complied, and when 1% people resisted and were terminated. So there's about 33,000 BC public servants, and we have about 300 of those people or so that were terminated. Many others, hundreds of thousands of others, retired early to avoid the mandates or complied reluctantly, but facing the inability to pay their mortgage or to support their families, they made the choice to comply with that mandate.
BC is fighting back. I'm so proud of you guys. It's about time. Philip, now we're talking about 2 class action lawsuits that you got going on. I know it can get a little confusing. Can you tell us a little bit about the 2? We'll do the first one. I think Jason Baldwin, who's not here today, we're probably going to have him on another show. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so Jason is the vice president of our society and was a employee of the Ministry of Finance in BC, and he was a unionized employee of the BC Public Service. The majority of government employees are unionized, and in this case in BC, members of the BC General Employees Union, the largest union in the province of British Columbia, which I'll also add supported the government mandates and did really nothing to represent their members in all of this. So Jason was terminated for not complying with the mandate and has brought forward an action against the province and the provincial health officer, Dr. Bonnie Henry, for charter rights violations and misfeasance in public office and privacy breaches. So that action is going forward as a class action. Jason is the representative plaintiff for it. So on behalf of approximately 30,000 BC public servants who were subjected to the mandate, he is making the claim in BC Supreme Court that it was unjustified and ultra vires the Constitution or illegal. And so that action was heard simultaneously with another action, which we'll talk about in a moment. In terms of its certification, it has to go through a few stages before it gets to trial, but we're now at the certification phase, and there was a certification hearing held at the end of April and beginning of May, a few weeks ago.
And then the second one was brought before with Terri and Jed, correct?
Yeah, so that is, and Terri and Jed are former healthcare workers in the province of British Columbia. They worked in our public healthcare system. They can tell you more about themselves, but they are representing healthcare workers who were also terminated, kind of bizarrely, I guess you could say, during the pandemic when they had previously been lauded as heroes for fighting on the front lines of this COVID-19. The government turned around and terminated them for not complying with their COVID-19 vaccination mandates. So they are going forward with very similar action on behalf of all of the healthcare workers unionized healthcare workers in the province of British Columbia, and are doing a great job doing that.
Did BC, before all this was happening, ever have an exemption law or where people could get a religious exemption or whatever when it came to vaccines previous to COVID?
Yeah, there'd been interestingly a kind of a battle over flu vaccines in the years leading up to COVID-19. So Terri or Jed could maybe speak to that more, but my understanding was that the provincial government mandated the yearly flu vaccine for healthcare workers. And so there was a legal battle in which the BC Nurses Union was involved, and actually the legal counsel representing Terri and Jed and Jason in these two actions was involved as the CEO of the Nurses Union at the time, and eventually demonstrated that the efficacy of the flu vaccine was so low that the government had no justification to mandate that. And so that policy was overturned, and healthcare workers from then on had the choice whether to take the flu vaccine or not.
Terri, we're going to start off with your story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your involvement? How did this all start for you?
Well, so I was a lab technologist for 17 years with Interior Health here, and I was one of the only people at my place of work who didn't want to get the shot. I was just waiting for more evidence to come out on the safety and efficacy, and of course that never came. So, when they decided to mandate it, that was a big no for me. When someone's going to try to force me to do something, I'm definitely not going to do it. So, the BCPS group had formed immediately in October. As far as the healthcare workers went, it seemed like we created a whole bunch of small groups on Signal and Telegram and that sort of thing. It was really hard to try to figure out how to get everyone together. So we met up with the the BCPS group eventually there, and they helped us form our society to try to bring the healthcare workers together. We weren't sure what we were going to do at that point. It wasn't an immediate, oh, we're hiring a lawyer, we're suing the government. We, just wanted to get together and discuss, common issues amongst us and just kind of form a group to support each other. We originally wanted to go after our unions, and it was really interesting that we got hooked up with Omar Sheikh, who is our lawyer now. He was the CEO for the BC Nurses Union for years, and he actually decided that he thinks that that everyone should have choices when it comes to bodily autonomy, and we ended up hooking up with him, and it's just been great from there. The issue for us is we thought he was a perfect lawyer to help us go after the unions, because the unions didn't support any of us, right? He definitely is the perfect guy to do that. However, what the issue is you have to go through the British Columbia Labor Board if you want to, sue the union or go after the union. And the Labor Board is not letting anyone go after the unions. So you have to file what's called a Section 12 to say that there's a failure to represent, and the Labor Board is not letting any of them go through. So we had to find another route to just seek justice. We, our biggest thing is we just don't want to see this happening again. We don't want to see the employers taking advantage of the workers. We don't want to see the unions not supporting the workers, and we don't want to see the government, getting involved. The government has just put themselves right in between the employer and the union. They made it so that the employer had to do what they said, and they also made it that the union could not support us. So that's why we decided to go after the government.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. Anything called warp speed, I wouldn't want to really inject that in my body either until I had more information about it. It doesn't sound comforting. Were you one of the only ones? Were you alone? Did you find any allies there with your coworkers? Maybe some. We're hearing a lot of them didn't want to take it, ended up taking it, but it was like a really mentally a horrific thing for them, but they couldn't lose their jobs. They couldn't afford. They have a family. Did you find that? Were you alone, or did you have some people that were around you?
So I had one very close coworker who was with me the whole way, which was nice because, there was a lot of bullying, a lot of harassment, and we just tried to ignore it and keep moving on. But I also there were at least 7 other, coworkers that worked kind of alongside me, but not with me, that were that also ended up getting fired. However, so I was the chief steward for my union. Jed and we're both represented by 2 different healthcare unions. And so I was dealing with all of the people from my union coming to me saying, hey, I don't want to take this shot. What can I do? And there were, many of those people. But when the mandate came out, they felt like they needed to get it, and they got the shot. And the thing that I find the most interesting about it is those are the people that are being so quiet in all of this, right? And the government just keeps saying, oh, it's 1%. We only lost 1% of healthcare workers, but that's not including all the people who retired early, which is a huge number of people. But it's also not including, they said, oh, all the people who did the right thing. Well, no, there was, I'm going to say probably 30% of healthcare workers got it just because the mandate was coming. So, a lot of them didn't want to get it. And I really hope that, in the near future, those types of people will maybe start speaking out about it, right?
Agreed.
One of our favorite doctors in our program is Dr. Charles Hoff. And he's from British Columbia. And wow, what that man went through when he started seeing adverse effects of the vaccine and tried to warn Bonnie Henry and the people in charge of the province there. what that poor man has gone through over the last years through all this is amazing. But you know, he's won his court. He did win his court case, but you know, there are some strong fighters that you guys have had in the province, and obviously you must know of Dr. Hoff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we have kind of created this this network. So we have lots of people who might not be a part of our society, but we definitely do have a network. There's the CSSCM, those are the non-union healthcare workers that went to court through judicial review. And it didn't go as well as expected. They are appealing the decision, but we are in close contact with them. But Dr. Charles Hoff was actually just really quick, you guys. You know, when the bullying and harassment that I was talking about was getting pretty bad at the hospital, it was almost perfect timing when he sent his letter into the media and they actually shared it. And he sent in the letter that he sent to Dr. Henry. And that was kind of the moment where all of us were like, yeah, you know what? Like, we agree with him. Good for him for speaking out. He really created a he made us all kind of want to fight it, right? Because he was doing it. So
Yeah.
it was a big thing for me. I think that a lot of the healthcare workers would say the same, right?
The ripple effect is what I like to call it. You throw a little stone
Absolutely.
and just the ripple effect. Jed, talk to me about your scenario, a little bit about you in the healthcare system. What happened to you? How do you go from hero, which is why I love what Philip said. I remember you guys were heroes, to losing your job. What was your experience?
100%. Well, I've been a union guy pretty much my whole life. And, you know, I started actually getting involved in unions when I was a healthcare worker. And I was a laundry worker, and I worked in soil sort and clean. So it was like it was a plant, and it was pretty much a delivery service, right? So we'd go pick up the laundry and we'd clean it at the facility, and then we'd fold it and then send it out to the hospitals from all the way from Nanaimo down to Campbell River. And so I kind of seen what was going on months beforehand, like what was going on in other countries, Australia, England, China. And I started thinking, I'm like, well, what's going on here? I mean, they're going with these vaccines and they're firing people over there. Is that going to happen here, right? So, and I was the president of the local. I was the chief shop steward. I was on the OH&S committee, and I was on the labor board. So I had a lot of ways to go about trying to fight this way before I knew what was coming for us, right? So that was pretty tough, and I mean I lost it all, and it was quite devastating for sure. And in my facility, because I could talk to people and have the local meetings and stuff like that, right? There's about 16 people at my facility that did not want to get it. They waited until the very last moment. About 6 people caved, a bunch of people retired early. I had people coming up to me. That was like a couple months after they started giving the shots. I remember them calling. They would call the healthcare workers because we were the first ones to get the vaccine, right? Or the experimental vaccine or product, whatever you want to call it. And 5 people in my facility came up and said that they were having heart problems. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting it. They can't even make a flu vaccine that works. How are they going to create a brand new vaccine for a new disease in that kind of time to make it work? So I was right off the bat, I knew that this is, as far as I'm concerned, a lie.
Yeah.
Right. So it was really, really harmful. My boss was saying that they were going to have to shut the plant down. And I mean, that would have stopped laundry from where I said before, all the way to Nanaimo to Campbell River. Right. And that's to get the clean laundry. So it was a really disgusting time, really.
Knowing what you know now, with everything that has happened, are you disappointed? I don't know how to word this, but are you disappointed in our country, Canada, and how they treated people, and how maybe most of us thought we were actually free, and we kind of found out through this that maybe we're not free, that there's people that are going to force you to do what they want you to do, no matter what you say?
For me, 100%. I was always a little bit skeptical, but it was always just in the back of my mind, and I'd see some stuff here and there, and I'd be like, oh, well, that doesn't seem right. And then as soon as this, it just full mind opened up fully. As soon as this happened, I remember the NDP saying, if you don't get it, there's going to be consequences, right? And the consequences of what happened is that BC healthcare is being destroyed as we speak. It's never been worse. I mean, it was never perfect, right? But it was still functioning, and now they're closing down hospitals and emergencies and stuff like that, right? So it's very, very harmful. It's exactly opposite of what they said they were trying to do.
Terri, go ahead and answer that question. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Jed said there. As far as our situation as healthcare workers in BC, I think we were more mad at the provincial government. However, when you look at the big picture, it all comes down from the federal government. It's what they say, just travels through all of the provinces. I guess, Alberta was a little bit of a different story, but all the other provinces just followed what the federal government was saying there, right? I didn't really think about politics very much before. And now when I see what is going on, it makes me really nervous. I mean, it would be pretty easy to pack up your bags and move somewhere that's a little bit more free than it is here, because it's just one thing after another, it feels like here, right? It's not just what happened to us. It just keeps happening. You just keep seeing all of this stuff that is happening all over Canada, all over BC, that is just showing that it's almost like the government feels like, well, we got away with it. Let's see how much more we can get away with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and that's, again, why we are here, why we're fighting this, right? Because we want to make sure that they know that they can't get away with everything, right?
Yeah. Well, you've had your day in court. I think it was near the end of April, beginning of May. It was 5 days. Philip, were you there? Who wants to talk about a little bit what happened in court? Did you feel like they were responsive, that they're listening? Do you feel like they were just like, I don't care what you say, what proof that you show, like this show, Talk Truth? We have so many doctors, scientists, lawyers, you know what I mean? Like names, chemical, whatever people that I can't even name what they do, but like, give all this evidence. Do you feel that the Supreme Court was open to what you were saying, listening, or do you feel they were shut? Who wants to speak to that? Is that you, Philip?
Sure. Yeah, I was there for the 5 days, as were Jed and Terri. I can say that I have faith in the process. I know it's really frustrating for people like ourselves who have kind of seen from very early on the lies and the propaganda that was involved in implementing these policies. And I have to say, I'm impressed and dismayed at how effective fear as a tool can be when it's wielded by government. And what they did really was terrorize people by threatening them with their livelihoods. So they complied. And very few people had the courage to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. Because all of that information, what you referenced with Dr. Hoff writing, the provincial health officer, about the safety issues with the vaccine and the effectiveness issues were known at the time and known to government officials who were mandating it. Yet, for instance, in the case of the BC public servants, the head of the public service at the time, Laurie Wanamaker, said the vaccine was the safest and most effective measure to prevent transmission of virus in the communities. And that's why they need to mandate it for over 30,000 public servants, including the majority of whom were working remotely from home. but yet you could not continue your working for the public service unless you held up your digital vaccine passport on your phone over your computer screen to your supervisor. So it made no sense, and it was apparent at the time. So the issue is when powerful institutions and people lie and commit misfeasance in public office, it's very easy for them to do that, and especially when they do it quickly and in an overwhelming fashion with billions of dollars of media propaganda behind them. And it takes a long time to correct that lie. And it takes determined individuals like Jed and Terri and Jason to stand up and to bring legal actions to court, to have all of the evidence heard, and to have a proper review of those things. And so what we had at the end of April was a 5-day hearing. It was anticipated that both sides, so counsel for the plaintiffs and then counsel for the defendants, the government, would have a chance to present their arguments for and against certification. But the justice hearing the case has taken, which I think is quite appropriate, a very methodical approach. And so only counsel for the plaintiff spoke during those 5 days and hasn't finished his submissions. So a further 10 days have been scheduled for later this year, anticipated for December, for the plaintiff submissions to conclude and the defendants to make their submissions. So this litigation process is going to play out and will take a long time, unfortunately, for those of us who are eager to see justice be done. But that's what it takes, unfortunately, to correct lies that are so big, like what we've witnessed with COVID-19.
Agreed. Well, we're out of time, you guys. We're definitely going to have you back. Maybe we'll get Jason on too and have this conversation since your case is still ongoing. We really appreciate you. We'll be praying that you get the verdict that you are guys deserving. And I got to tell you now, you're heroes for picking this up and pushing forward and not letting it go and forgetting about it. You guys are heroes in my book and Alan's book. And we know there's a lot of people in the healthcare departments that are looking forward to a win as well. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Well, great program, Alan. I'm excited that British Columbia is out there. Just jab, jab. Exciting. Hopefully the truth gets out. Truth wins. God wins. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you want to help support our program, keep this kind of conversation information on the air. We are viewer supported. We don't take government funds. You can go to our website, gotalktruth.com/donate. You can give digitally that way. If you'd like to do it through the mail, you can. You can make your check payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association and send it to 246 Stewart Green, Southwest Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H3C8. And if you'd like prayer, you can call our toll-free line, 1-800-915-0056. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.